Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Coco Nomad, where I talk about financial and location independence, remote work, and travel. So, if you're interested in those topics, please click the like button, subscribe, and the notification bell if you want to follow along as I share tools, tips, and techniques that help you make a living and a life. And I really am enthusiastic about helping people do it the way they want because there's just so many ways that you can do this. And so, I don't think you should subscribe to just one way. Do what works best with you for you with the information that's provided. So, I'm going to dive into a topic that is related to my own fire journey. I have a video that I'll link to in the description about my fire number. I talk about fire and how I'm pursuing financial independence and not really focus on the retire early part. But I go into details about that in my video, share those numbers and my targets. So make sure to click that and watch that whenever you get a chance, queue it up. There'll probably be a link at the end of this video that'll point back to that as well. So don't worry, it'll be there either way, one of the two places. So let's dive into my first investment report. This is the first one that I'm doing, and I wanted to share sort of this journey along the way. Now, just want to preface this by saying, one, never take investment advice from anybody on the internet, including me, right? I'm not a CFP. I'm not a fiduciary. I'm not your CFP. And you want to make sure you have people that are in your corner if you're going to get financial advice. But you can watch and see what other people are doing, get some ideas, and then talk about that with your financial advisor, financial planners to see if any of the stuff that you hear makes sense. And that's how, if you're going to take any advice from me, that's what I would advise you to do. Get professional advice. If you hear other things, run it by them, talk about it, see if it works and fits your plan. Otherwise, it's just a world of hurt. And I just don't advise anyone to follow just someone because they said, "Oh, I made much money on the internet, investing or whatever." It's like, not a good path. Promise you, I've made those mistakes. So let's dive in and talk about this is my first month being more active investing. Like last year, I sort of dipped a toe back into investing, period. I opened up a Robinhood account and I basically just had, you know what, I may have had that Robinhood account longer. So I have two different sort of investment accounts, one with TD Ameritrade and then one with Robinhood. And my TD Ameritrade is where I have my Roth IRA. And then here's where I'm doing my active trading. But I didn't really do much. Like I had some Apple stock, I had JC Penney way back. I know last year they went bankrupt. I actually made money off of that, but I'm not going to talk about that. But I used to work at JC Penney. There'll be another video where I talk about my jobs and all the jobs I've ever had. So the JC Penney thing would make sense for someone that knew like just loyalty and probably misplaced. But now I'm diving back in and I'm really taking a particular approach to my investing and being active. And when I mean active, I don't mean like sitting here day trading, looking at charts all day. I don't have time for that. I have a full time job, I have consulting, I have other interests. I just don't. I don't have the bandwidth to sit here and watch screens and try to do this day trading thing. It's just like, it is not of interest to me. So that's not what I'm doing. My goals are to reach Coast Fire in 3 years. Now, if you watch my fire video, it's your fire number, you'll see that what those numbers are and what that means. And the calculation is really for 4 years conservatively, but I'm trying to do it in 3. And I explained that in my fire accelerants video, where I talk about these different things that I'm doing. So the overall goal is financial independence in 10 years. I think I can, for me, I think I can reach that in 10 years. Now, I say all that to say, if your numbers, if you're doing your own calculations, you're following along, if you can't hit Coast in 3 years, or if you can't hit FI, financial independence in 10 years, don't worry about that. Your goal is not to try to copy and emulate other people. You should be inspired by other people for sure, but don't compare yourself like, you know, apples to apples, because it's just your life is different. You may have family already. I don't have any kids yet. Part of my plan to get there early is to have the kids. I am a software developer, so I'm sure I make more than like average salaries. And I live, outside of the US and I live in places, I don't live in London or Switzerland or anything like that, or Hong Kong, or Japan. I'm not spending that type of money where I travel and spend my time traveling. I mean, I do visit those places occasionally, but I don't stay there for long terms because it's just so expensive to do that. So let's get into my particular strategy with investing that I've kind of laid that groundwork. And it is really focused on monthly dividend income and options trading, and the particular type of options trading. So I'm buying quality companies that offer dividends, like really, really like dividend aristocrats, dividend kings. If you need, you can look these things up if you don't know what those terms mean, but they're basically companies that have consistently paid dividends over long periods of time. So you know they're stable companies, they have stable revenue, and so they're able to pay a dividend. And they're not giving you all the money in terms of the dividend. They keep some money, to do other things and the profits. But I like that because it represents stability, and that's what I'm looking for on that side of this strategy. Is I want to be able to depend on that. Now, I do a lot of things in companies that provide a monthly dividend, so I'm putting money in there, and that's part of the more aggressive strategy to sort of accelerate this. And then the other side of that is doing what is called the wheel strategy in terms of options trading. That is two components: selling covered calls and selling cash secured puts. And basically using a strategy that when certain events happen, when you do each one of those, you go and you do the other one. So it's like I'm trying to sell cash secured puts, and then an event happens, I get assigned those stocks, and then I start selling covered calls on those stocks. And if they get called away from me, then I go back and do the selling secure puts. But I'm combining those because I'm doing this strategy on companies that pay monthly dividends or some dividends. They don't all pay monthly dividends, but I try to stick with dividend paying stocks so that when I am holding, I'm also getting the benefit of those dividends as well. Now, anytime you have a goal, you probably want to have some intermediate targets, some kind of measurement to know how you're getting there. And this is where I have my own income targets. And I made this little chart. It's a simple chart. Just did it in a spreadsheet for myself and the goals that I'm trying to hit in this particular area. This is with my investing strategy. Now, level one is just to, in a combination, because I'm starting very small, of monthly dividends plus any premiums that I derive from the options trading strategy is $100 a month. That's it, just $100. And I think that's a nice first level to achieve because I don't require a ton of money. And I can do this slowly. And the progress for each of these levels over time, it'll, as you can see, level 12 is $10,000 a month. That is not something I'm thinking I'm going to get to anytime soon, but I have it there on the horizon because I just want to keep going. So I know that each of these levels isn't an end in and of itself. That I'm like, I hit one level, okay, now it's time to work on the next one, however long it takes me to get to that next level. So as you can see, the first three levels, level one is $100 a month, and I do have the weekly breakdown of what that means. Level two is $250 a month, and then level three is $500 a month. And I think, right now in the near term, making $500 a month with this strategy as part of my portfolio and part of my streams of income be really, really good for me. Like, I'm really excited. I'm happy to get the $100. Don't get me wrong. Like, just getting there to me is like a huge win, and just kind of get that ball rolling. So, how did I do in this month? Well, let's dive into what I achieved. Inside of this first attempt in September, I did achieve $11.45 in dividends. And that was a bit higher than what I normally get, but it's because one of the stocks pays quarterly. So every time I get one of those quarterlies, it bumps up because normally I'm probably making like $2 to $4 a month in terms of the dividends. But the difference maker for me is that I am getting these premiums from using the wheel strategy of selling cash secured puts and selling covered calls. And that's where it made a big difference for me. This month of September, I achieved $103 in premiums, which dwarfed the dividends and brought me to a total of $114.45. So I hit level one in my first month of using this strategy. So I may talk about some of the details, but I don't want to steer people. And like I said, I'm not giving financial advice. And this stuff happened in September anyway. So you couldn't even make the same plays. And I wouldn't advise you to do that anyway. So I just wanted to share at this point what that looks like so we can go over and look at some of the trades. And so I'll share sort of the options trades I've made here. And then you can look and see that in the month of September, I made basically only two companies, and mostly one company. I'm really excited about Ford and the electric F-150. So I was looking to acquire some shares of Ford, and rather than just buy the shares outright, which I had already done, I had like 14 shares of Ford. I decided that I would go ahead and try this cash secure put strategy to see if I could use that to get some premium and get assigned and acquire those shares. And so what I ended up doing was I did a series. I did like four contracts, all at about 12 to 12 and a half dollars per share to get me there. So that was about let's do the math, like a little almost about $5,000 worth of capital collateral that I needed to do that. The interesting thing that happened, which is a learning experience for me, is I never got assigned for any of them. And what I ended up doing was closing out them all out early and keeping most of the premium, and then doing it again because I was expecting the price to stay at the same level, and it started to rise a bit. It went up, started trading at about $13 to $14. So I had to sort of reset the levels to acquire those trades. So that's what I did. I went ahead and moved all of them up at different expiration dates. So usually each one's staggered because this one is trades weekly. So I did one, and then one that expired one week, then one the next week, one the next week, and I went all the way out to October 22nd. And this is at the end of September, so it's like late September, and I did that again, and I still ended up only holding those four contracts again for 4 days and closing them all out and taking the profits. Because for me, I was like, if I'm already in the money, I'm already making the money, I don't need it to go to 100%. I'll just take a percentage of it and just move on and do something else. But if you look at this chart, this also includes my first mistake where I got greedy and my eyes got big and I saw this premium number, and that was in a company called Riot, which mines crypto. It mines Bitcoin and Ethereum, and they have a lot of equipment. And I went very, very long. So I sold a covered call all the way out until January 24th of 2024 to get this $1,615 premium. And while that number looks big and it looks great, what I realized was that I was tying up this capital of $2,800 because this was at $28 per share for a number of years. And so once I came to my senses after a couple of days, I realized like, this probably wasn't the smart thing to do. Let me go ahead and get out. So I could buy to close it, even if it was for the same price. I was just waiting. It's like for the same price. But fortunately, it ended up being the price to buy to close it was actually $15 less. So I ended up still making $15 over the course of those 3 days. So it was a lesson learned in not being greedy and not getting ahead of myself. But the lesson didn't cost me. The lesson actually paid me $15, kind of like having an internship. so working an internship for like a couple of hours. It's like, this isn't for me. And they give me $15 and I walk back out the door. It's like, all right, I'm going to do something else. So that's how I'm looking at this right now. And so just kind of sharing a little bit of that detail and what is coming up next for me. For me, what's coming up next is I will be doing more purchasing of dividend stocks. I'm learning more about how and when to close out these options. And I'm staying within my wheelhouse of just doing those two techniques, selling cash secured puts and selling covered calls. And that's it. And only selling. I don't buy any options. I've heard too many horror stories. I watched too many people. And yeah, I know in the comments, you can tell me about spreads and iron eagles and iron butterflies and iron maidens and whatever. Not interested. Just not how I roll. So I'm well aware of those things. I pay attention to them. I've watched tons of videos. I've watched tons of people explain these techniques, but I'm just not comfortable doing it. I am of the mindset to always be selling. ABS, always be selling. I want that premium and I have patience. And that's how I'm going to play this game. I think that's the best way for me forward and can provide me risk mitigation in these situations. And my next target is level 2. And that is, we'll see in October's report, can I hit $250? Spoiler alert, yeah, I can do it. So stick around. Glad you're watching. Thank you for sticking around this video as long as you have. Again, hit the subscribe and notification button if you want to see more videos like this. I'll continue to talk about these. And, that October one's coming up. We've got Well, we've got 20 more days, so there's more time, but I will be doing I do other videos along my fire journey, other videos about my life as a remote worker, traveling, living currently in Mexico City. I may be doing an update about how to pick locations because I actually have to do that coming up. I have to pick my next group of countries coming up for 2022. And I've never actually walked anybody through that. So if you're interested in that, again, click the notification bell, click subscribe, you'll get those. As always, thank you, thank you, thank you for being a supporter of the channel and watching. You click like, it helps the channel a lot. Please share if you think it's helpful to other people. I appreciate the support. It's a very young and small channel. And as always, have an amazing day, and I will talk to you next time. Cheers.